Cool conversation with his boy Charles.
Yes, Charles
runs
Patti.
He's we had a
yeah.
great time. You're gonna love it. He runs a center and he does ketamine therapy and he was a really cool guy and I
Yeah.
just really want to go to his center now. Honestly,
That was a beautiful conversation though, because we went into why he's doing this, and we
that's it. He used to suffer addiction and he slowly climbed out of it and it's the medicine plus psychological help plus meditation plus everything you can throw at it together,
and it's such a powerful mission statement behind his work, and it's super awesome conversation. I there's a lot to take from it. I need to re-listen to it, but I don't know. I just felt really hopeful for the future of psychotherapy and the direction psychedelics are going in terms of the medical route, the FDA route. It's actually a lot of people are worried about that path, that big pharma might take control over it and stuff like that. But the truth is, it's guys like Charles who are operating these facilities that are serving these medicines, FDA regulated, and you hear this kind of structure it's in place.
Yeah.
It's making me super hopeful, and they're really saving lives and helping lives. That's fucking cool, man.
We said it a few times. It's a renaissance.
Yeah, it is a fucking renaissance.
Oh, and please like, share, subscribe.
Yeah.
It helps us out a lot, so enjoy, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
Share it out. Take care. Mwah. Stay curious. Stole it, brother. What's up, beautiful people? I'm Nathaniel Pearl.
And I'm Sam Sheva.
And welcome to Curious Chimps Podcast, a show where we explore the infinite complexities of the human experience.
We do not endorse anything illegal, so please consult doctors, do your research, and for the love of all that is holy, be safe. All right, let's talk about drugs.
Curious Chimps.
Okay, what's up, Charles? How are you doing?
How's it going, guys?
It's good.
Good. Thanks for coming, man. Thanks for
having me. I appreciate it.
So yeah, we'll just start it like that. We have no structure in the beginning or
Nothing
the whole way
special,
through.
Yeah.
But
yeah, if you want to introduce yourself, obviously, we can just start it off that way.
Okay.
yeah, I'll just put it out there because I saw your story in one of the, I think it was the Only Positive Posts group. I think you told me that that's your group, but I saw you made a post about how you overcame an addiction and how psychedelics kind of saved your life and helped you move past that. And I would love to share that story with our audience and to see how it helped you and go through all that. So maybe we'll just get a quick intro of who you are, and then we'll get into what your story is.
Sounds good, man.
Sweet. Take it off.
Okay, hey everybody. My name is Charles Patti, and I am the brand ambassador at Myself Wellness. And at Myself Wellness Center, we do ketamine therapy, we do medical cannabis referral, NAD plus therapy, and vitamin infusions. And psychedelics mean a lot to me because psychedelic medicines actually help save my life. So we are doing psychedelic therapy out of our facility, and we're using ketamine right now because it's FDA approved. In my personal story, I suffered from addiction issues, and I was an alcoholic for over 20 years of my life, IV drug use, the whole gambit. And I actually had, more than just drug addictions. I was addicted to food and women and scratch-off tickets. And basically, I was just addicted to more of anything that took me out of the place where I was and helped me escape because I just never felt right. And so I suffered from crippling anxiety and depression and a fear of death because I lost my father at a young age. And I used drugs and alcohol as a coping mechanism to get through my days. And, life was completely unmanageable and rough for a lot of years. And I think it was probably about 12 or 13 years ago. And I had a lot of psychedelic experience through my life. I think I took my first acid trip when I was 14 or something. But when it was 12 or 13 years ago, I had a ketamine MDMA experience, basically. And I had a full-on out-of-body experience where I went out into the universe, and I was a being made of light, and there was some higher dimensional beings there, if that's what you want to call them, and Jesus was there. It was completely profound, and mind-blowing at the time. I thought I had died during the actual trip because I had no idea that's what I was getting myself into. And I hadn't like really got myself together at that point. I was still out there partying and living a reckless lifestyle, but I came back with a lot of messages, and it was basically to like, I really needed to turn my life around and clean my life up and stop doing the things that I was doing, and basically get sober and not be in the drug life anymore. And I'm not going to say that happened after that night immediately, but through the course of my healing journey and after that profound psychedelic experience, I started like researching, like outer space and ketamine and kind of the things that I had experienced, and DMT kept popping up all of the time. So I was like, okay, well, this sounds like pretty close to what I just went through, so I should really try to check up on DMT. And I studied it like fanatically for like 6 months straight. Just dove straight into it, going completely crazy, just watching videos and reading, and after about 6 months, it popped up in my life. And I got to tell you guys that, DMT is one of the most amazing substances out there. It definitely gave me a real spiritual awakening. And it was through DMT, psilocybin mushrooms, and ketamine. That was like the real recipe for success with me. But like, I don't just give credit to the medicines. The medicines were a tool that got me to a place where I really got to, took the reins of my own life and started practicing meditation and healthy lifestyle changes and exercise, healthier diet, and things like that. And here we sit and talk today, and I'm lucky enough to be at a facility where we're doing psychedelic therapy.
That's phenomenal. I think that's a big point to make, and we've been saying it a lot in the more recent episodes about the medicines, is that these are not the solutions. They're accelerators to help you on your path. But it's like so many stories of people take these expecting X results to come out of it, but it's not going to give you your answers you're looking for, but it's going to help guide you into the way where then you'll start meditating, you'll start researching more information about self-healing, and maybe it's after that, maybe you need to do like a therapy session with a psychologist or something. But it's a really good accelerator, but it's not the solution per se. It's just part of the solution.
I completely agree with you. Listen, I use this quote by Alan Watts a lot when I'm talking to people about psychedelic medicines. And I'm like, psychedelic medicines are like a telephone receiver. You pick up the receiver, you put it to your ear, you listen to the message, and then you have to remember to put the receiver back down and apply what you've learned to your life. So it's like psychedelic medicines can do a lot of amazing things to help you on your healing journey, but at no point should they become another crutch and another form of escape. And I think that's where a lot of, and I had fallen victim to that for,
me too,
years before, and just kept trying to find out more. I want to learn more. I want to know more from the universe. And, I had forgot to start applying what I had learned to my life. I had all this vast knowledge about things that I had learned from psychedelics, but I wasn't actually putting it to play in my own daily life. So
I wonder if you have a lot of people have a similar experience. Eventually the medicines tell you that. Like even something as subtle as cannabis, it's like, hey man, stop this and go do the things we're telling you. Like the Alan Watts thing. Like when you get the message, hang up the phone. It's like, just don't obsess with the phone at all. Like even the phone starts telling you it's this intelligence, it's this love of like, okay, like we're done with you now. Like come back later. But like you get it, you get enough. Like you have a lot of ammo, you have a lot of things you could be doing. And it's almost more subtle, and like there's all these people encouraging you, and it's such a positive environment, but it's another layer of the ego and another escape, like you said. I haven't heard it I haven't heard that word on that, but it is another form of dodging responsibilities. Or
it can be.
Yeah, it
can be.
it's a tool.
Yes.
Psychedelics are a tool, and that's the way it should be used. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No. I was going to add to that because I remember in an ayahuasca ceremony a few years ago, this woman was partaking in it, and I don't know if you were you there?
You told me about it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So usually after the ceremonies, I don't know if you've done ayahuasca, but it's there's like a circle, usually a circle to just have a sharing moment at the end of the ceremonies. And this one girl just broke down into tears. She must have been in her 40s. And she was just saying how the message was so clear. It was like she was saying that Mother Ayahuasca told her that she's done with the medicine now. It's time to go live your life. The work has been completed on my end. Now it's up to you to continue on. And it was just like I was kind of new into my practice with that medicine. So just seeing that, I'm like, holy shit, she's like graduating university here, you know? But yeah, but that's the power, is like, these aren't crutches. These are just accelerators and helpers and guides to your journey. And they'll get you to where you need to go, and then you continue on that path.
100%. You know, like, I have hundreds and hundreds of psychedelic experiences through the course of my life. And, you know, for the biggest majority of those psychedelic experiences, I wasn't using the medicines properly. I was taking, you know, excessive amounts of psychedelics and looking for external pleasures rather than using them as a tool for meditation, like I tell people about nowadays. And, you know, when I really started diving into the psychedelics with the intention of using it as a tool for meditation and really going within and doing the healing that needed to be done, that's when the game really changed, you know? And it's funny that you mentioned the lady that was sitting in ayahuasca ceremony that said basically the message that she got was like, you're done and now it's time for you to keep on, you know, your journey, but you've learned what you needed to from the medicine. So when we first opened up, my fiance Christina actually owns the business. I am the brand ambassador. We have 2 psychiatrists, medical staff, nursing staff, and we put me through the protocol that we were going to be putting our patients through. Okay, and we actually, like, everybody that works at our facility has firsthand experience with the medicine, including both of our psychiatrists, including our nursing staff, including Christina and myself. So we actually really pride ourselves on that because we all have firsthand experience with the medicine. So we can really tell people, kind of hold their hands and tell people what to expect going into these kind of situations. You know, Dr. Ferber, one of our psychiatrists, the guy's 86 years old, but he's been a psychiatrist for 63 years. He lived on 5 continents and taught meditation on 5 different continents. He lived with Osho for 20 years. He lived in the Himalayas. He's written like 8 or 9 books. I mean, the guy's like a legend, you know? So, but he has, like, he had some experience with the medicine as well. And when we put me through the protocol, which we did some sublingual treatments, then we moved into intermuscular shots. The last 2 sessions that I had on ketamine, it was like, it's almost like the message I received was like, you're using this out of ego now. Like, it's like, because like I had learned so much and I really had all of the information that I needed to use. And like, and I had came to the realization that I feel that you can manifest when you're on psychedelic medicines also. I feel like it taps you into certain parts of your brain that you're not normally, like, you can't normally access. So the last 2 experiences I had on an intermuscular shot, you know, like, I have a beautiful fiance now. I have a baby boy. Like, all of these things that I never thought that I was going to have because, you know, I couldn't make it out of bed before 6 o'clock at night for a lot of my life. You know, it's like I was partying constantly, staying up for days, complete, you know, crazy, just madness. And I've got to the point where it's like, you know, I've been screaming about psychedelic medicines for over a decade now to anybody that would listen. I mean, it's like usually I can't even like go into the sauna at the gym without sparking up a conversation about DMT with 5 guys sitting in there. And I'm just like, yeah, you know, psychedelics saved my life. It's like all I talk about. And, you know, I actually have like more of a platform to do it from now. And we have a business where we get to help people and I get to help pull people out of the flames that I was once in, and I get to go back in and keep pulling people out. And it's like, you know, when we first got in this, I had Mike Zappin. He did the movie called The Reality of Truth. It's a documentary about Aya, and it had Michelle Rodriguez in it and stuff. And I was sitting down with Zappy, and he looks at me and he's like, so listen, man, he's like, what do you want from this? He's like, what do you want to get from all of this? And I just looked at him and I'm like, I just don't want people to feel the way that I used to feel, you know, because that's no way for a human being to live. And I said, and if I can just help like one person, if I can help one person, the 20 years of drug addiction and alcoholism and all of that misery that I went through, it's worth it. It has meaning now, you know, it's not a waste. And when we were getting started, like with the business, you know, I was in the electronics industry working for a PR company and advertising company. I had 2 jobs, and, you know, Christina was pregnant with Charlie, our son at the time. And I basically looked at her and I said, so listen, like, I'm quitting my jobs and we're gonna like open a wellness center, and we're gonna try to help people heal. Because I'm sitting around with these CEOs of these huge electronics companies and everything, and I'm like asking them if they know about psilocybin and stuff. It's just like, I know I'm supposed to be doing something in this field. This is like, it's my passion. This is all I talk about. So we took a leap of faith, opened the wellness center, and we were just going to do wellness center at first, and then we were hoping to be able to move into ketamine therapy down the road. And like, we really felt that it's something that we wanted to do, and it was one of our goals. And our first medical director which was a friend of ours, he came in for a tour of the facility, and he was going to be our medical director. And at the end of the tour, he looked at us and he's like, "You guys ever heard of ketamine before?" And I'm just like, "No way." I'm like, "Yeah, yes, I've heard of ketamine before, and and psychedelic medicine saved my life, And he actually didn't even know that part of the story until that day.
That's nice.
Now, he didn't end up being our medical director because he's a urologist and he's got like 3 different practices here locally. But Dr. Ferber came in, and he was going to be, but Dr. Ferber came in and he just wanted to talk to us about what we were doing because he was really interested. And then by the end of the conversation, he just looks at us and he's like, "What do you need me for?"
Nice.
The guy was like, personal friends with Ram Dass, worked with Osho, he had his first psychedelic LSD experience in 1956. I mean, so I was
He's
just
OG.
like, yeah, we need you here, man. So we moved forward with Dr. Ferber, and it's been amazing. We've been in business for over a year now, just a little bit over a year. We've done over 400 treatments. At the beginning of all of this, like when we were in the other building before we started the psychedelic therapy, one of our clients was doing physical therapy, drove his G-Wagon through the building. So that happened right when we opened. Then like 2 weeks later, the lockdown happened from COVID and stuff like that. So like, this has been one of those like constant tests from the universe. It's like, are you strong enough to keep pushing forward? And we just don't stop, man, because we're really passionate about what we do.
Sure. Well, and you're getting some signs too, right? Like that guy who didn't end up being your
director.
Director, yeah. But like, there's just that kind of obvious like synchronicity that's like, hey, you're on the right track. Like you're something somewhere is telling you that you're pulling in some powerful energy, right?
I love when that shit happens because it's literally feels like a reminder of the universe. It's just like, hey, keep going. And it's like when you start doing a path that you genuinely love and you're interested in, just these signs pop up everywhere. I don't know how to explain it. And I don't think it needs to be explained, but it's just like these are little things in the simulation in the world and whatever you want to call this thing that are just like, oh, yeah, keep going. Here, keep going. And it's just, it's fuel,
I just heard you mention simulation. I like that. All the time.
Yeah, exactly. Look, man, it's all on the table here.
But what you were talking about is those like signs. Like we use the word divine synchronicity more and synchrodestiny more than you guys could possibly imagine. It's literally like we are true believers that something really wants this to happen, and all of the right people, even though it'll be like by the skin of our teeth. Like every time we're like, oh, is it gonna, and then something amazing will happen, and the right person, I'll bump into I walked into a car wash one day and ended up meeting a guy who's ex-Secret Service that I had this feeling that when I just looked over and saw him, and I went over and I'm like, hey, we're opening a ketamine treatment facility. I was like, I said, I think I'm supposed to be talking to you right now. And he's just like, yeah, you are, because I just did a 5-MeO ceremony in Costa Rica last week. And I'm like, and it's like all of these people and a lot of the people I met in my past, like throughout my life, are like starting to pop back out of nowhere, and they play this intricate role in everything. And I'm like, that's why we met. Because like I am a true believer that everything is divine. We are all one. Yeah. We are all extensions of the divine. But like everything that's synchronistic, there's a synchronistic play on the path to enlightenment, on this journey that we're all a part of as, consciousness itself. And so like there are no coincidences, there are no accidents. Even though we might not understand why certain things happen, it'll always make itself evident when it's supposed to. So I'm a true believer in all of that.
It's almost like the path gets more narrow or more obvious as you go or something. And I wonder, like you had this kind of sensitivity in this moment with this guy, with this ex-Secret Service dude. And I always have this a feeling that like there's some kind of predisposition or some kind of sensitivity, like I said before. And I wonder if that maybe is what led you to your problems at the beginning, at the top of that story, you know, like the addiction and the downward spiral. Like, I feel like most people, it's not like I'm not trying to say like some people are more sensitive than others. Obviously that must be true to some degree, but I think most people are just like having a hard time because it's just like a human thing to be kind of sensitive and in this kind of connection. And then there's just this path, this easy like gravitation towards, I don't know what to call it. Like like it's quick ways out to kind of numb yourself, and then it becomes this downward spiral. I'm just wondering if you feel the same way. If like the same thing that's helping you now is kind of what got you those problems in the first place, even though they're not problems anymore. That like you said, you know, if they can help 20 years of you know, the washing machine, it's still worth it because you're helping so many people now. But
well, you know, like, see, I'm right with you. I'm very empathic. I definitely, even growing up and stuff, was a very sensitive kid growing up. And, you know, I never felt like I belonged. Like I always you know, I was always popular. I always had a lot of acquaintances and so-called friends or whatever, but like they weren't real. Like, it's just like everybody knew me and I knew everybody, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, I never felt like I fit into any group or crowd. So I was always like, you know, like making my own little groups and stuff like that, and just I never fell into the 3D matrix, I guess you could call it. You know, it's and I don't look back at the 20 years as as a waste or whatever, or anything. I actually like, I don't feel bad about any of the stuff that I went through. I feel bad about, like, you know, hurting my family and stuff like that or whatever, and, you know, getting in trouble with the law and all kinds of stuff that was embarrassing for people. But like, see, I'm actually at the understanding that I realized that I had to go through all of that stuff, because if I didn't go through all of that stuff, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you two gentlemen right now. You know, everything, every arrest, every you know, like almost overdose and death, every single day of waking up in my own personal hell, where if I didn't go, you know, stick a needle in my arm, I was going to be dope sick all day. You know, it's like I had to go through that. And even the 100 more pounds than I do now, you know, being completely overweight, I had to go through that because, see, I've basically had every addiction, or pretty much like every, you know, addiction that you could go through in life, and the crippling anxiety and depression and the fear of death. So like, there aren't too many people I can't relate to on some sort of level out there. And like, I know that I had to go through all that and go into those flames like I was talking about earlier. So now the universe helped pull me out of those flames, and now I get to go back into the flames and help pull other people out. So it's like, I get to live my dream, man, because, you know, it's like, I've been wanting to help people with psychedelic medicines. I was telling everybody, you know, about psychedelics before any of this stuff with the business. And I had, you know, had success stories of guys I had told about DMT and stuff like that, and kind of pointed them in the direction of psychedelic medicines that are sober and doing really well today because of the psychedelic medicines that I kind of pointed them in the direction of, you know. So it's like, now it all just makes sense. Everything makes sense, you know. And people, like, when I tell people my story, sometimes they're like, oh, you know, I'm really sorry. Like, you know, like they like, it's like they look at it like, oh man, that's awful. And it's like, you know,
is it? Yeah.
it definitely wasn't fun a lot of years of my life, and it was pretty miserable. But that being said, now I have an awesome life, and it's because of the direct result of going through that synchronistic train wreck, basically, that led to the station of success, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to impart that on people that are going in the middle of it, and like, and are really like in the shit, you know, like no other way to say it. But eventually you just kind of come out of it a little enough to be like, okay, this is the present moment. What do I do now? And there's no better choice eventually you see than to just like use that or perceive it in a way that helps you now. And in a lot of ways it becomes really helpful, like you're saying. Like, you know, it's kind of fucked up to say, but everyone knows it's true. Pain is like the great relator, you know, like you have this superpower now, you know, amongst whatever natural things you were kind of born with. You have all these experiences, and it just spearheads, and now like you have a center, and people are it's like a factory, and people come out like fixed on the other end. Like I don't want to say it that simply, but it's still really fucking cool. Like it's like amazing.
But that's, you know, people with paths like yours that have like these very deep and dark moments in their timeline, just like these depths of hell that they achieve and reach, when they come out of it, the greatness that can come out of that climb, usually you see it across the board, is like people with those kind of stories end up doing some great things because
it looks like a swing.
Yeah.
It's like you gain momentum.
and I have like an image in my mind. It's like, because you're digging yourself this hole, but there's a mountain forming behind the hole. So as you're coming out, then you start climbing this mountain that you've kind of created. You know, that's kind of how I vision it.
No, for sure, man. You know, and like, listen, as cliche as it sounds, without the dark, you wouldn't know the light. And
Yeah.
it's like, you know, it's basically the truth, man. I mean, it's just like, you know, I had to go through all of those dark times so I could realize that I am the light, you know, and go back to help other people. And, you know, it's, I'm actually grateful for all the stuff that I went through because it made me into the person I am today. We actually had NBC News here, like, I think it was like a week and a half ago, and there's a story they're going to be doing on us next month about psychedelic medicine and in our center. And the guy, one of the main, the reporter, he was just like, listen, he's like, don't you think that, you know, your story, because you've been in trouble with the law and this and that or whatever, he's like, don't you think it might be bad for the business in some aspects? And I'm like, listen, man, I go, I'm fully aware that my story isn't for everybody. I said, but I think it'll reach the people that need to hear it. And that's what's important, you know? So it's like, it all makes sense. Everything makes sense, man.
I find it really funny that he put it that way because I see it the other way around. Like you're gonna penetrate into the people who really need to hear it, because it's like, this guy got the help from the thing he's like helping us with. I don't even know how to put it into words. It's so obvious. It's like,
but I think that's the shift in the culture right now, is people want realism. People want real stories. They don't want to hear like this perfect story of just had a great childhood, whatever, and you started this clinic and now we're going. They want to see like, fuck, you went through that and you got to here from point A to B. I need to do this in my life. And I think stories like yours are just going to be so much more empowering for people that are really in need, because
when I was growing up and getting in trouble and, you know, on drugs and all this stuff or whatever, I went to like rehab like 8 times, man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I went to like 8 different rehabs. I was in detox over 6 times. And one of my biggest problems is that I'd go into these places and I'd get a counselor or a therapist, and it was like, they'd never taken drugs. They never had an alcohol issue. They never really had any problems like with the stuff that I was suffering from. So I turned off, even though it was my ego back then, and I understand that now. And like, since we are all the universe basically is speaking through everybody, I would shut people down and I would turn them off before I even gave them a chance a lot of the time. It's like, because like, you know, listen, like I used to tell people, I'd be like, listen, you don't know what it's like to be dope sick, you know, on the bathroom floor, puking and crying and stuff like that. Like, you don't get it, man, you know? And it's like, I do get it though. I really get it. I lived it. And, you know, and like, and see, it's like, that's why I know I'm going to be able to help a lot of people with my story, because I can relate to people and I have overcome these things, and I can tell people, and listen, like, it's never like a hierarchy with me, or like and nobody at the facility too. It's never like, listen, you're broken and I know what's right for you and I'm going to fix you because I know best. That's not anything like what we do here. What we do is I sit here and I share I share my story with people. And if it resonates with them, you know, we start talking about it, and I just talk about the things that worked for me. And if people want to take some of the stuff that I talk about and apply it into their own life, that's fantastic. But like, you know, I know my story is not going to be for everybody. I know that, you know, I'm not going to be able to help everybody, but I feel like, you know, just on a relatable sense of actually just talking to people and being like, listen, I've been where you've been and this is what worked for me. It opens the door to help a lot more people and actually have them, you know, stay in the conversation and not shut you off.
Yeah, for sure. It's huge, man. It's like you're coming from a place of direct experience and empathy. It's also just, you know, their pride, like you said, like they're in a tough place and they feel like they're in a real sense of pain that other people maybe can't understand. And they can't really take that away from you. You're like, no, I actually do understand. So there's so many factors of why it's just the best possible combination of like, it's just I can help you. And it's like you said, you gained a lot of humility through your experiences, and you know that you don't know what's going to work for them, so you just kind of throw everything, like you throw the kitchen sink at them, and whatever sticks. Anyone who's done any kind of self-help or gone through any troubles or any anxieties and depressions, you never know what's going to help. So much stuff slides off you, and you feel like, ah, crap, one more thing that doesn't work, but then something someday clicks, or some stuff earlier that didn't click right away, it's like useful later, but you just weren't ready, etc., etc. You know, like, it's worth it. It sucks and it's a process, but it's worth it if you're gonna get somebody to feel better and to just like live an enjoyable life afterwards. Like, it doesn't matter what the process is. It doesn't matter if it takes their whole fucking life.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't though, but
Yeah, for sure. I agree though, man, you know? And, so like at the facility, what we're doing IV therapy, we're doing sublingual doses of ketamine, and we're actually doing intermuscular injections of the medicine. And our protocol really just goes, it's usually 6 treatments that it takes us to get people into a really good place and get them off their meds and stuff like that. And our first dose, and our dosing protocol at this facility is a little bit higher than other facilities. It's like a little bit more aggressive, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Blasting people off.
We want to have people have profound experiences, man. There's a lot of other facilities that are actually blocking the experiences by giving people benzos or only dosing them high enough until they're about to have a profound experience, and then the medicine's not titrated up anymore. And it's like, we encourage people to have profound experiences because, listen, there's a lot of physiological healing that's happening from the ketamine. It's healing the neural pathways in the brain, causing new neuroplasticity. Is actually studies that are showing that it's helping the brain create more dopamine naturally. So it's like there's a lot of physiological stuff that's happening, but in a psycho-spiritual sense, these profound experiences that people are having are, completely mind-blowing and a game changer.
Yeah.
The intermuscular shots of ketamine that we do at the facility are very relatable to an hour-long DMT trip that you can navigate a little bit better, and you can actually hold on to and retain the actual experience more than, like Joe Rogan explains, DMT being like gold dust that slips through your fingers or whatever. It's like you actually really hold on to these experiences. And at the end of people's 6 treatments, we actually do offer for them to come in if they want to and try a double shot. So we actually will figure out what the sweet spot for that individual is, and it'll be one of the higher end doses that we give that person. And so they get the shot, and then 40 minutes later, our nurse goes in and administers another one. So this is basically around a 2 hour and 15 to 2.5 hour psychedelic out of body experience, basically, where time and space have no relevance, and you're just everything, man.
What kind of results have you been getting from this kind of treatment so far?
So it exceeded any expectation that I had going into this. I really, I knew we were going to be able to help people, but like, as far as getting people off of pharmaceutical medications like the SSRIs, the benzodiazepines, antipsychotic medications, street drugs, alcohol, we have like almost a 98% success rate of getting people off of all their meds, off of all of the street drugs,
That's
off
phenomenal.
of all the alcohol. We'll have people come in and they're like, listen, I've been taking Xanax for 20 years and I want to get off my Xanax. And through the course of their treatments, like 2 or 3 treatments in, they're like, I haven't been drinking at all. They're like I'm weaning off my Xanax, but like I'm not drinking at all. And like I didn't come in here not to drink anymore. And all of a sudden they'll just like stop drinking through the course of their treatments. And like, and they're still not drinking to this day. I'm still in contact with a lot of these people. And so it's like, listen, I've done, the gambit of psychedelic medicines, except for I haven't done Aya, but I've smoked DMT over 40 times and had some amazing breakthroughs on it. There's nothing that I've personally seen in the psychedelic space that's doing what ketamine's doing right now. Even for me personally, like, with hundreds of psychedelic experiences, I still would have peaks and valleys in my mood a lot of the time. And the ketamine really took those peaks and valleys away and just got me to this level, cool, calm, and collected center where it did more for my mood than anything else. I was using too much cannabis going up into my ketamine treatments too. I mean, listen, I'm not knocking cannabis. I love cannabis. I think it's an amazing medicine, but like medicine is the key word there.
Mhm.
And I was using too much of it. And after my ketamine treatments, I really didn't feel it necessary to barely use cannabis at all. Like I'd been using it anymore. Like, it's more of like I can use it if I choose to now, not like I have to use it to get through my days kind of thing. So, ketamine's changing the game. Even Dr. Ferber, he's been a psychiatrist for 63 years, like I said, and he just looked at me after we first started doing this, and he's like, I've never seen anything like this before in my entire life. He's like,
This is it.
we're doing 3 to 5 years worth of therapy on somebody in an hour.
That's
and
incredible.
be able to get people off the pharmaceutical meds like we're doing, it's like, there's nothing out there that's really doing it like this, It's definitely the beginning of the psychedelic, not the beginning, because the psychedelic renaissance has been going for a long time, but
It's hitting the peak now. It's literally like
taboo.
Yeah, it's right now the companies that are huge.
Yeah, mainstream.
Yeah, there's a lot of big companies right now like MindMed and other companies that are really at the pinnacle, and they're really going to push this forward, at least at the FDA route. Like these medicines are being operated underground in churches and all sorts of different, like psychedelic churches, and they're really helping people regardless. But to get mainstream, I think that's where a lot of the people that are victim to the stigma behind it and maybe never considered something like this, these kind of companies like yourself and others are going to push it forward to the mainstream, and that's the exciting part. Because
MDMA's in stage 3 clinical studies right now. Psilocybin mushrooms are in stage 2 clinical studies right now. I've heard rumors that MDMA assisted therapy should be pushed out by the end of 2021. I'd love to see that. That being said, though, we're going to run the whole gambit. Ketamine's just FDA approved right now, and that's why we can use it, and that's fantastic. But we will be doing psilocybin, MDMA assisted therapy, DMT. I got to tell you guys, one really cool thing that we did a couple weeks ago was we had done these with doctors from throughout the country and stuff when we were first really getting set up and collaborating with some amazing people, including Dr. Michelle Weiner over in Miami. We had big groups of people get together, and everybody was approved by doctors and things like that. And we did it was like a ketamine healing ceremony, basically, which would mirror like your ayahuasca ceremony. And a couple weeks, so we call it ketamine group assisted therapy. And we actually had our first one legally, like everything legally, at the facility with 8 people, and everybody had nice mats, and they laid it out, and everybody took not a full blast you into the universe psychedelic dose of ketamine, but we did do lower psychedelic doses of ketamine, and it was ran like a real healing circle where Dr. Ferber opened it up, and our nurse Jessica had a healing bowl she was playing, and everybody really got into this beautiful mindset, and everybody dosed ketamine. Not me, because I actually hit that point where the message was, listen, you're supposed to manifest your own reality now. You got to keep propelling this thing forward, but you're done with the medicine. And also, it was really a direct message where it's like, because your history, if you don't stop with the medicine, people are going to say that you're just taking drugs again, but just different drugs now. So that's why it's really important for you not to do it. So that's another reason why I'm not doing it.
It's like an
But
thing,
we had people sit in this ceremony and have the most, it was beautiful. And there was some really profound experiences that people had. One lady said that she was in the presence of God, and it was amazing. And then afterwards, everybody had a little bit of a healing, a sharing part of the healing ceremony. But I actually got emotional like 3/4 of the way into it, because I looked around the room, and everybody's on these ketamine trips, and I'm just looking around, and I'm like, we're doing a ketamine ceremony right now. I mean, it is therapeutic group ketamine therapy, because you have to be very specific about the way you're going into this, so it is legal and not for recreational use. Like every single person had to meet with our psychiatrist, get diagnosed, had to have appropriate things to have them partake in this. But I'm looking around, and I'm like, we're going to be able to do this with mushrooms and MDMA and and ayahuasca and DMT and like all of these different things. I'm just looking around, and I'm like, this is how these ceremonies have been held for thousands of years, and we're doing it legally right now in this building with ketamine.
This
and it was
is
just like beautiful. Man.
this is
So-
exciting, man. I'm
Yeah.
so hopeful and excited for the future of the medicine. A lot of people in our communities of the psychedelic communities are actually very worried about the way that's going. I'm actually very optimistic. I think there's so many good intentioned people in this community that are really, they have the credentials and they have the passion and the love for these medicines, but they never really had the funding. But now that the funding is here, you're gonna see like guys like your psychologists in their 80s who are talking about how powerful these therapies are and medicines are, and these are the people that are behind it. And I think you're right. I think the future of these medicines, there's going to be these kind of like
It's like a
FT
merger.
yeah. There's going to be these ceremonies like a ketamine circle, and then eventually an ayahuasca circle that's legal under therapeutic use with a shaman and then psychologists behind it and nurses on board. It's just going to be like this westernized, protected, safer environment instead of going to the jungle, and it's going to have the same effect, you know.
You just did. That's what I say to
Yeah.
people all the time, and I'm just like, listen. I go, you can go and see. So the ketamine shots, the intermusculars that we're doing, I've had people that have sat in Aya ceremony before, including my friend that's Secret Service, and he said that the ketamine is actually more profound than the ayahuasca was. And I'm not saying that ayahuasca isn't profound. I know it is. I've heard a million stories are amazing. DMTs, you know, it's one of the most mind-blowing, awesome experiences out there. But, you know, we're going to be able to have, instead of flying to South America or wherever you're going to fly to and sitting out in the jungle somewhere, you know, in tents or however, in a village or wherever you're doing it, where you could be miles away from a hospital, you know, you don't have certified medical staff standing nearby with, you know, other medicines just in case, you know, it's like, we're going to bring that real safety net to people where they're going to feel completely comfortable and they can truly let their guards down and enjoy and experience these, you know, experiences without having to go into it with like, you know, what if something happens to me? I'm out in the middle of nowhere right now. What, you know, like what's going to happen, you know, and we're actually, so we're in Bonita Springs, Florida right now, but we will be opening in the future and hopefully the nearer than later future. We're going to be doing like we're going to be doing a myself wellness hub because we're going to go nationwide eventually. You know, everything's getting lined up. We're talking to the right people. We have the right investors lined up and everything. But like our next vision is to have more of like a hub over towards Miami where it'll be like, I hate to more like the Four Seasons of psychedelic therapy or something, where you have like a one-stop shop where it's going to be like, you know, meditation, yoga, qigong classes, dietitians, really like get people, you know, that real recipe for success, not just about the medicine. Because, you know, listen, even, you know, right now here, we don't just preach the medicine like I was talking about. The medicine is just one part of this, you know, of this whole gambit of different healing modalities that you need to take part in, or else you're not going to have the recipes for success. You know, you have to have the meditation, you have to have the healthy diet. What I put in here determines how I feel up here. If I'm exercising, I'm going to feel healthier. I'm going to be releasing natural endorphins and dopamines. You know, it's just like, you know, all of this stuff that is the recipe for success. And, you know, we do you know, we have personal rooms here where people go in. We have lazy boy chairs. We give people blackout masks, earmuffs to block out their hearing. And we tell people, listen, this is a tool for meditation. If you use it properly and shut your mind down and go into a meditative state, you can accomplish what a Buddhist monk that's been meditating for 50 years can accomplish in an hour at our facility. Basically, it's like a cheat code. But, you know, it's like, you go into it with that. And then it was like I was touching about, it was so important for all of us to have firsthand experience with the medicine network here. So when people come back from these experiences and they're reintegrating back and they're integrating their experience, the one thing that happened with me like the 12, 13 years ago when I had my out-of-body experience and I had all of this amazing stuff happen to me when I came back and I tried to talk to anybody about it. Everybody thought I looked like I should be in a straitjacket, basically. And, you know, and I wanted to make sure that people felt comfortable when they came back. Like, hey, if somebody, is like, hey, listen, like, like I was in outer space and like, I was on a ship or something. And there's pretty much nothing somebody could say to us that's going to make us turn our head and look different, because it's just like, that's perfectly normal. Don't worry. It's perfectly okay. We wanted to be able to relate to people on that level where they didn't feel more alone coming out of these experiences than they went going into it, because that's how I felt for a long time. So.
Yeah, that's so well said. That seems like such an important piece of integration that I didn't really think about. It's like integrating the knowledge, but then kind of integrating yourself back into like your world and your life, and not feeling more segregated or more alone or like more confused, because it is sometimes a lot of information. And I mean, it sounds like correct me if I'm just being ignorant, but like it sounds like you're finding like that sweet spot, that dose you're talking about. You're kind of inducing what they call the K-hole. So you're kind of giving somebody that like you're not passing out, but you're getting that psychedelic like infinity, like wah, like
It is, with the shots, it's very much like a blast off. And it definitely, like, at the right doses, guys, at the facility, people are having full on out of body experiences where they're traveling out into the universe. And I just had a lady recently say that she was meditating with Buddha out in the universe. One of our other patients said she was out in the universe and Jesus and Buddha were with her. Another story of a lady flying through one of the dragons from Avatar and flying out to the universe and then ending up at the Taj Mahal. I personally was like jumping timelines and was, going to divine realms where I was in the presence of the creator of everything. And, we're having people hang out with deceased relatives during their experience.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very much if anybody, the people watching, if you have an understanding of DMT, I would put DMT right here and like ketamine right here.
Wow.
It's like when used with the intermuscular shots, it's much longer. It's much more drawn out. So it's not more like, holy crap, what just happened to me? I'm back. It's more like get to like sit around and look around and navigate the experience. And it's amazing. I mean, when I did the first intermuscular shot, when our nurse administered it to me and Dr. Ferber was sitting there and I came out of that experience, I had gone to a divine realm where I was in like golden hallways and like Source was telepathically talking to me basically. and it was because I kept screaming, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. And it was basically like this message where it's like, Charles, like, you need to stop cursing. Because you're going to be giving this speech to very big audiences of people eventually one day, and you don't want to lose any of the audience. So no cursing, and like that was the message I received. And then I like popped back out into this dimension, and I just looked around and I looked at everybody in the room, and I'm like, we get to do that to people? Oh man, that's awesome. And it was just, I've been screaming about DMT for so long, but basically it's just like the same experience, except for, there is a much more tranquil effect to the medicine because it does disassociate you and does, make you heavy feeling.
Yeah, I've had some, let's say, recreational experience with ketamine, like a long time ago, and I had one time where I accidentally took too much, let's say, and thank God, I blasted off. And I've actually talked about it on the show before, like a long time ago when we were first starting. But it's hard to explain for sure. Like it was like infinite time, and there was all these like kind of totems that were like flying towards me, and they were all like memories or concepts of my life and things. It was very surreal and very. Anyway, whatever. Those spaces are for those spaces. But something that's been ubiquitous. A lot of people explain that to me, and you just touched on it. There's something about this chemical molecule, whatever this substance that makes me it just made me really okay with dying, which was really weird. At first, it's like, do I want to be okay with dying? Like you're like, obviously now I understand and see the benefit, and
the benefit.
No, there really is a benefit. I mean, it's a weird thing to be a human and to know that you're gonna die, but if you can accept that, then you're just accepting more of your reality, and like your dharma opens up, and whatever you want to call it, like it's some karma sheds a little bit because you just feel like, okay, I'm this is gonna happen, and your life is lived much more clearly, and it seems like that's a big plus. There's something, it just chills you out. I remember being in my bed, being like, a plane could fly through my roof right now and just like just myrtleize me, and I'd be cool with it. Maybe it's because I'm a little numb also, like there is this kind of effect like you're saying.
Yeah.
But it was very much this mental feeling of just like, hey, what happens happens.
And I think it's that fear of death that dictates most people's decisions in life. And that's why maybe someone will go down a darker path, is because there's just so many factors of anxieties and stresses that we're building up. And I want to actually ask you, like, well, what this medicine can do for people like that, and why is it so effective? But my hypothesis is that by eliminating that initial existential fear of death, then you can start making decisions from that foundation out of love and passion and openness, because the foundation now is kind of cleaned off, and you can build off of that because your fear of death is kind of accepted.
Listen, my dad died when I was young, and I had a crippling fear of death for a lot of years in my life. Like, I used to literally like wake up and be like, am I going to die today? It was that bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And psychedelic medicines completely alleviated my fear of death. I know that there is no such thing as death anymore, that we're all made of energy.
It's like a transition.
It really brought me to the understanding where the physical death from this life is probably the birth of a brand new existence on another timeline or within another dimension. But like, with going to what you asked, what's the medicine, the ketamine doing for people?
Yeah.
Excuse me. We have people that come in with a fear of death, and at the higher intramuscular doses, people feel like they've experienced death. Okay. I had one of my buddies who's a doctor, actually. He came in and he was very fearful of death. And so he actually wanted to go through the treatments because of that. And it was actually his double shot at the end. I walked in after his experience was over, and I said, so tell me. I go, how was it? And he goes, well, I died. He's like, but you know what? I'm okay with it. He's like, we're all made of energy. It's okay. I get it now. It's not with him. And I had experienced something like that during one of the treatments, and a lot of our patients actually do. And like, listen, I don't want anybody that's watching out there being like, oh my gosh, they're killing people at this facility. That's not what's going on. It's just literally you experience it like in your trip, like you basically have died in the trip, and then you're just like, okay, I'm okay with this. Like, this isn't as scary and as bad. Like everything's okay, and we're all connected, and everything is energy, and like, and when you come back from having an experience like that, it kind of makes you have the capability of, the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey, where he just said yes to everything. It kind of gives you that, it gives you more confidence to just go after things and to chase your dreams and to really, manifest your own reality and just keep going and going and going, because it takes that fear factor out of the whole equation pretty much, and it gives you the capability to really chase down your dreams and go after what you want in life.
It makes me think of, I don't know if this is from the Bible or something, but it's God saying, behold, for I make all things new. And it's like, you just have this, like, I mean, I didn't have it, I don't really remember my K experiences, like, giving me this, just innate, like, fearlessness or something, but there's a lot of these other plant medicine experiences where I just had to kind of cross an abyss. Like, I was just stuck in this kind of, like, membrane of fear. And eventually you just kind of give up or give in. And when you cross to the other side, that's like whatever you're afraid of, you can navigate fear differently now. And that like the feeling is scary, but the thing itself is just like, it's just life. It's just like a thing. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm just like, there's nothing more satisfying than a PhD saying we're all made of energy. I mean, like that,
Tell me about it.
And what blows my mind is that that's like such a common term and phrase thrown when someone comes back from like a breakthrough experience. Is like they don't even need to have much knowledge beforehand. It's like you kind of come to the same realization, like, holy fuck, we're just this fractal experience, and we're all one. Like these are common terms we hear over and over again. And I think that's the power of these medicines, because a lot of people, especially in this day and age, we're missing that connection of community and oneness, and we feel very separated and isolated, especially in this past few years. But
Yeah.
it was already happening. This just ramped that up even more.
Yeah, this is like the
When
zit.
when you realize like that we are all an
Yeah.
extension of the divine and that everything is divine,
God is,
it
man.
that fear factor away too. You guys are?
Oh no, yeah, I just said God is, man. God
Yeah.
is. Like, I'm just agreeing with you. Yeah.
100%. You know, and I think that's what it's really doing for people. Like, you know, in the fear aspect of everything, also is just like, you know, it's like, since we are all a part of the one, who we are, I am the I am, and so are you. You know, it's like, as long as I'm doing things for the right reasons and really trying to be, you know, a good person and live by divine guidelines, basically, I think it really takes that whole I need to be scared of all kinds of negative, bad things happen to me constantly thing out of the equation, anyways, because like that's not what I believe the universe or God or the creator of everything to be like. You know, it's love. Love is what I think it is, not, you know, not something that you're supposed to be fearful of. You know, when people talk about, you know, I'm a God fearing man or woman or whatever, it's like, well, you probably, if you're, the only way you need to be fearful is if you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? Because then you're gonna have the repercussions of karma come after you.
Yeah.
But like, as long as you're doing the right thing and living by spiritual guidelines, you should probably be pretty okay. You know?
Or even worse, you are something that you shouldn't be. That's a horrible feeling. And it's like, come on, man. Like, I'm great at intellectualizing shit. I love putting stuff into words, you know. And I think there's, like Nate was saying, like, we come out of these experiences kind of all saying the same thing, and it's because it's hard to put it into words. It's really impossible to put it into words. So we start pulling from other people in this kind of collective, and you're grasping at straws a little bit. You know, I'm kind of frozen on a thought. I hate to switch the subject around quickly like that, but I'm sure you're familiar with Terence McKenna.
100%.
That's
I agree.
He actually, I don't know if you've ever heard him talk about ketamine, but he talks about certain drugs and plant medicines and things as like having a kind of like a warehouse of information, having it like its own karma almost, and it's kind of this information of other people who've taken it or something. And this is it's kind of a loaded question. I don't even know where I'm going really, but I kind of feel like it's pointed or stilted a little bit. But like, he's described certain drugs, and ketamine was one of them, I think. And he said it was kind of like an empty warehouse or like an empty office building, because there wasn't a lot of people who had taken it yet, or it wasn't used in that psychedelic way yet. And I feel like that's really not true anymore. And I was just wondering if that sparks any kind of ideas or thoughts for you, or maybe it is empty in a good way, where you can kind of put it, like fill it
like
with
a
your
clean
own
slate.
experience. Yeah, I don't know if any of
Well,
that
you know,
resonates.
The ketamine's okay. Well, it's a mental reset for sure, but like, it's so there's definitely more and more people that are going through ketamine treatments. I know there's a lot of recreational ketamine use going on out there. I personally had my first ketamine experiences in a recreational sense, and I got to tell you, what we're doing here at the facility, it's
Not
like
the same.
nothing like that. It's completely more profound and different on all kinds of levels. But I think that what ketamine's doing, so like they were doing studies on like how much of the brain activates during under the influence of different psychedelic medicines, and LSD was lighting up a whole bunch of receptors, and psilocybin was like lighting up a whole bunch of the brain that we normally aren't accessing. And there's another facility on the other coast from over here in Bonita. It's over towards Lauderdale, and it's a rehab facility called Road to Recovery, and they're doing ketamine treatments for people that are going through their drug and alcohol rehab. And they actually have a monitor that they were hooking up to people's brains, and it shows how much of your brain lights up when you're under, you know, when you're on the substance or whatever. And did you know that when they were giving people ketamine in the intermuscular shots, that 85% of their brain was lighting up? So like, I think that it basically takes these filters down, and like it lets you access different parts of the brain that might be tapped into different dimensions or different realities, different, you know, whatever. And letting you be able to access that for the window of time that, you know, that it's open. And it's really crazy because, man, we have people, and like, and I had this experience too, but like, we have people coming in here and they're having the exact same experiences as other people are. And they've never spoke to each other. They've never even been in the building at the same time. They don't even know each other exist, you know? And it's like, one of the main things that keeps happening to people is they go out into the universe and they say that they go to a healing station where they can literally feel like some sort of machine or the universe, like massaging their brain and healing their brain. Okay. And I had that experience too. We call it the healing station, but there's been like more than a handful of people that have had the exact same experience from this facility. So it's just like, at that point, you have to ask yourself, you know, what's going on? Like what's really happening here? Because this isn't just, you know, listen, Dr. Ferber talks about it's a movie of the mind, you know, and he's the older gentleman that's the psychiatrist here at the facility. And it's like, I definitely believe some aspects of that, but there's a lot more to it to me than that.
It sure feels that way.
With every,
it sure feels that way.
Yeah,
it feels that way.
Know, got people over in China that are having the same experiences. People in Southwest Florida, you know, it opens up that connection.
Different psychedelics seem to have the same, like everyone takes a shroom trip and they have like these huge downloads and this kind of like galactic information, and then everyone takes ayahuasca and they have this kind of motherly like ancestral pull, and then everyone's taking, I want to call it special K still, I'm sorry, I was about to say everyone takes ketamine and they have this healing stage, like it's like each of these are these doorways, and it's like, you know, like you were talking about dopamine and these things like that, like all these molecules are these doorways happening in our brain like naturally at different levels, and we're introducing new doorways and having these other dimensions of experience, literally, like it's
you know, when you just talked about the downloads.
Yeah, everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, anyone who's had a psychedelic experience, that download term is just like, yes, you know.
It's like you're force feeding a duck, like the foie gras. Like you're just like, you're like, stop.
I used to like describe people like, I'd be like, think of psychedelics kind of like as like a stick, you know. It's like your what's it called? The stick for the computer.
Like a USB key.
Sorry, man. Yeah. Mental block. Think of it as like a USB stick full of information, right? And you're basically just like plugging it in and it downloads all of this stuff. And then I started thinking, well, like, you know, different psychedelics have different information to download, you know, and that's why I really wanted to like touch on all of them when I was on my journey of psychedelic healing. But like, you know, I had a true, you know, like, listen, people throw around the term woke a whole bunch out there, and like it's usually coming from a place of ego when people say it, but I had a true awakening experience from DMT. Like it woke me up. Like I actually, you know, my fiance was there and I sat up and I looked right at her and I'm like, I'm awake now. And like, and I knew something that I had never really, really known before, you know, and it was basically, I woke up to the fact that we're all God. And you know, I posted it on my Facebook page last night, but it's a quote from Van Gogh, or wait, no, Leonardo da Vinci, and it says, "I awoke to only find that the rest of the world was still asleep." And like, psychedelics can have these amazing awakening experiences for you, and then all of a sudden you go to like one of the loneliest people on the planet because you want to tell everybody about it and nobody will believe you, and it's just like, and you can't really talk to anybody about it, you know. So
I would put that more in the past tense though, because when I first because when I first started, I started my psychedelic experiences about 12 years ago now, and I felt so isolated because I would tell my ex at the time, my girlfriend at the time, about it, and she would look at me weird, tell my friends about it, like, ego death, what the fuck are you talking about? And then I just kind of closed off, and then thankfully I was lucky enough to come across Joe Rogan's podcast and hear people like Graham Hancock speak about the exact things that I experienced, ego death, and then I just started following these communities, and now today's time, ego death and ego dissolution and meeting God, like these are more and more common terms being thrown out from these experiences, and way more accepted than it was 12 years ago. And to see where it'll be in 5, 6, 7, 10 years from now, it's very exciting. And a lot of my integration was halted because I wasn't able to talk about these experiences back then. So imagine now when you have an accepted group and community or facility where you can share this and really integrate the lessons and downloads, it's just going to amplify the healing process.
Yeah, man.
You know,
It's
I
so
have a
fucking
feeling
exciting.
that I have a feeling that there's a mass awakening underway,
Yes.
and you know, psychedelic medicines are really going to be the catalyst to, which actually already has got it underway.
Yeah.
I can really resonate with what you were talking about with like, you know, getting on all these different communities of people on online and Facebook and everything, and you know, that's where I basically lived at for a lot of years after these experiences, because I couldn't find anybody to talk to about it. Like nobody I knew, nobody even knew what DMT was pretty much that I knew. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, I'm just sitting online and, you know, in DMT groups and, you know, psilocybin groups and like all of these different groups. So I could find like-minded people. And I've actually made a lot of really good friends throughout the years being a part of those kind of groups, because it was like the only place that you could talk about this stuff where people didn't look at you like you had three heads, you know. And Joe Rogan, like, you know, one day I really look forward to hopefully having the opportunity to shake that man's hand, because I walked around with this 6-minute video basically about, he just broke DMT down, you know, just went into this whole spiel about like, you know, like DMT is like mushrooms times 1,000,000 plus aliens. And, you know, and it just tells you, it just like the whole, you know, if you do smoke DMT, you are going to communicate with higher dimensional beings. And I know it sounds completely crazy, you know, like when people would be like, well, what is DMT? Like I would just pull out my phone and be like, here, just watch this.
It's so much easier. Yeah.
I can't explain it any better than this, you know, but like it's guys like Joe Rogan and the Graham Hancocks and the Dennis McKenna's, Terrence's brother, and Rick Strassman's, who I've actually been in contact with a little bit with, and telling him what we were doing at the facility, and sent him my video about how psychedelics saved my life, and he's very supportive of what we're doing here.
I wanted to bring up Rick Strassman because when we were talking about, you were saying how people from across the world are having similar ketamine experiences. What accelerated my inquiry into the psychedelic world 12 years ago was his book, The Spirit Molecule, and his study on the 60-something patients. We're talking, the study was done, I believe, in the 80s or 70s, or maybe even the 90s. I don't remember the exact date. But these people did not know each other, and they were all reporting scary how similar it was, their experiences from each other. And they never spoke to each other, never communicated with each other. And a lot of them were talking about being in like an operating room. Others were talking about being in like this hive, this geometric hive, where they felt like they were one with the army of geometric bees, they would call it. And all these people, I wouldn't say all of them, but a majority, a big percentage, they had very similar descriptions in his journal entries after reporting their experiences. And that's what I really needed to find DMT after that and work into this whole world. But his studies from back then, is just incredible. It's something else is happening. It can't just be a movie of the mind if people from across the world are having similar experiences.
I mean, if you're a scientist, you can find excuses. You can say, like, you know, if everyone gets drunk and has a similar experience, everyone takes the same molecule, has similar interpretations. I can see their side of it, but I'm just happy that there's like you guys are talking about these experiences and getting you excited. I had a lot of these experiences and they kind of fell off of me, and it was unfortunate. But something that really got me excited about like the psychedelic renaissance was when I saw, like, you know what's a good example? When like therapists had names and words for categories of spiritual experiences. Like the science became like a spiritual science. You know, you started bringing that in. Anyway, I don't know. I just got excited. I'm sorry. Take a breath.
I dig it. And, you know, listen, okay, The Spirit Molecule, I probably watched that documentary 100 times.
It was a great documentary. Yeah.
And the one thing that Rick talked about that really hit home with me was that, you know, people kept having extraterrestrial experiences and they really couldn't put anything, and he felt bad about doing it to people because he couldn't explain it to anybody. You know, and like, I definitely on DMT, I've definitely had some pretty amazing experience nonetheless.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I think, and it's weird because, like, you know, like as far as experiences that touch on that realm, like I never really had any of those experiences like that, like the ET stuff, except for on DMT.
Yeah.
And but when I did, it changed everything. It completely changed everything in the way that I looked at the universe and the way that I looked at life. And
Yeah.
pretty profound and amazing and awesome to say the least. But but yeah, no, the people were having the exact same mirrored experiences, and it's just like there's not. I think it could possibly have something to do with how we're all connected as, one anyways,
Mm.
and I have experienced that hive scenario too, where it was like we're basically like this giant hive that you can communicate with other members of the hive telepathically and stuff like that. It's definitely had some truly profound and out of this world psychedelic experiences on my journey. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know if you've had experience with the 5-MeO.
no,
Okay.
never done before.
Yeah. So the DMT you're talking about is more NN. Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
mimosa hostilis root bark
Yeah.
extract.
So I've had quite a few as well with the NN, and
Yeah.
it's been very odd the kind of intelligences you can meet and talk to or experience, and it's very interesting. I find it mind blowing how that experience can just portal you into a different dimension. But for 5-MeO, that one for me was the game changer, because that one was just, I'm sure you've heard it described so many times, but it was just the visuals were gone. It was just you were gone. Every concept of reality was gone, and you were just in this sensory overload of vibration. And a lot of people talk about that as the source, as source itself, and you're just going back to source. And I just remember, and every time I do it, it's the same. It's just you just disintegrate into vibration, and you're there for a while, and time doesn't even exist. But as you come back to your body, it's like this welcoming from your ego, from you, that kind of holds you back in. At least for me, it was like a hug, and it's like, please come back, and it held me. And then
okay, I remember that story.
yeah.
Like, never leave me again.
Yeah, and my ego was kind of holding tight after. That was after my first ceremony of 5-MeO, and my ego was holding me tight, saying like, "I love you. I'm so sorry. I'll be nicer." And that was like my medicine. That was my experience out of that. That was like a huge shift between me and my ego, and how it's like the relationship doesn't have to be like toxic, because a lot of people use the ego and refer to it in a toxic manner, but it can be a loving, compassionate, and motivating manner, because your ego is a tool to help you forward. But the 5-MeO for me was, yeah,
The OS for life.
Yeah.
It's like the operating system for life. Like
Yeah.
it's
I love how you talked about the vibration. Like I believe that, we all are energy. We all at a quantum level are a bunch of atoms vibrating at a certain frequency. And I truly am a believer that, okay, well, like, one of the first things about life is just to raise your vibration and level up. I tell people, like, life's a video game. The object is to level up, go to the next level. And you can level up by cleansing yourself of, like, any resentments that you have. Basically the 12 steps from Alcoholics Anonymous. I know it's a spiritually based program, so it's not about drugs and alcohol. It's just about spiritually growing. But, like, not holding any resentments, making amends for all the things that you've done wrong to people, really like cleansing yourself in that aspect. But I believe that psychedelic medicines raise the vibration of your being to a whole new frequency. That's another reason why we can tap into these different dimensions and these different realms. I not only think that it opens your pineal gland wide up, which is your third eye, and I've felt it and experienced it. So this isn't just me saying, oh, I've heard the pineal, and it's like, no, like right in the middle of the center of my head, felt it exploding.
Yeah.
And and I was tapped into a completely different
Yeah.
dimension that I was looking in on. But I've actually, the ketamine, I did it with DMT with me also, but the ketamine, it raised my vibration so high when I was doing a couple of my treatments that I was literally sitting there going, we actually have people sometimes that'll come in for treatments and they'll be like, I feel like I might have had an exorcism or something.
yeah.
Like I feel like, and I'm like, we don't use that terminology here. I'm like, and you touched on it earlier. We do call it shedding. So I tell people, sometimes we have lower vibrational things that are attached to us that we need to shed off because they no longer serve us anymore. And I think that when you raise the vibration of your being to a high enough vibration, that you do shed off this lower vibrational stuff. Now, in a spiritual aspect, non-scientific, I can't go around and tell people this normally for the most part, but in a spiritual aspect, we're raising the vibration of people's beings and helping them shed off lower vibrational things that no longer serve them. and psychedelics do that in general, but the ketamine's really getting the job done. I had never buzzed or vibrated at that kind of frequency in my entire life. Right after my shots were administered a couple of times, I went into an ohm that wasn't even me doing it. It was like this uncontrollable ohm where I ohmed so hard that like I basically like opened my third eye wide open and you know jumped into another parallel universe or another dimension or whatever you want to call it. But psychedelics, that's I have a feeling that that's one of the reasons why they're taboo and looked at in certain aspects and weren't legal for a long time. I mean, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, is because there's something really spiritual that happens when you take psychedelics, and it alleviates fear. It alleviates your fear of death. And, you know, I don't think a lot of nefarious kind of beings out there, whatever, that want to keep people under that, you know, locked into fear and,
Well, then
and the
you're out of
unknown.
control.
Yeah.
When you have an experience like what you're describing, you're removed after that from any kind of power structure that thrives off of a fear-based mentality, you know. And when, like I tell it to all my friends, is like fear is the currency of control. It's like the more fear you can produce, the more control you can have over the people. And it's scary to see that that's being used in a lot of different countries and cities right now with the COVID measures. I'm not going to get too far into that, but you can see these mechanisms in different areas where their power control is stronger, what they're doing to their people. And there's like, it's above science and above facts for a lot of these measures. But when you're afraid, you're complying, right?
And see and listen, think of things in the real, because see, since you guys actually get this, think of things in the real big picture aspect of that we are one and that we're a collective consciousness, right? And that we're basically these ocean drops of water in this ocean of consciousness. And for the collective vibration to get too high, people will all start having these downloads and these awakenings, and they probably won't even have to be triggered by psychedelic experiences. So you don't want to let people get their vibration that high. You don't want the collective to get its vibration that high. And honestly, I am a firm believer that these medicines are taking us into an awakening that is going to raise the collective vibration, get rid of that old 3D matrix of fear and hate and you know, all of these other lower vibrational thoughts and feelings. And it'll take us to a higher vibrational plane of love and understanding. And, you know, everybody wants, you know, people talk about going into 5D. And I kind of feel like we're like, you know, I think that we're like shifting out of the 3D matrix. A lot of us are probably in the fourth body right now, or 4D. And then we're probably on our way to the fifth dimension of reality, of consciousness, basically, which will be at a higher vibrational state. And like I am a believer of that. A lot of people think I'm nuts for talking about it, but you know, it's definitely something I've experienced in my own life. So I don't really talk about things unless I've experienced them. I've always been one of these I got to see it to believe it kind of guys. And you know, I had my burning bush experience on psychedelic medicines. I saw it. I was very agnostic for a lot of years in my life. I wanted to believe in something. I didn't know if I believed in something. I thought it was an amazing idea, and I really wanted to, but I just needed something tangible to get me there. And psychedelics did that for me.
Same for me.
Oh, okay. I don't have to be scared anymore. I can basically like move on and live my life now and not be stuck in this fear zone, because everything's gonna be okay. It's like I have faith and everything's going to be okay no matter what now. And it gave me that faith, you know, so psychedelics can be so healing for so many people, especially with mental illness and all that kind of stuff. But the actual liberation of not living in the fear zone anymore is priceless.
Yeah. And when you reduce decisions down to the base level of two choices, it's fear and love. And that's how we operate our whole lives. And if we have in some part of our beginning of whatever decision came from fear, we spoke about this too off air, is just then everything that you're going to be doing from that base of fear is going to be tainted by fear. So you may get super successful, you may have these big properties, big cars, nice cars, whatever, but it came from a fear state. You're never going to find that pure happiness and fulfillment that if it came from a base of love. And I think what psychedelics have been, at least for me, is it kind of went back to that root decision of where am I starting my choice from? Is it going to be from fear? Is it going to be from love? Okay, if I want to make my life off of love, how do we go about it? And then maybe doing something like a toxic habit all is not going to serve me anymore because I understand the two choices. You know?
No, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
And it's like even the choices that we make or the decisions that we are riding on, that propelled us to do certain things, all have their own vibration also. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when you're coming from love and all that, you're at this higher vibrational place. And when you're coming from a lower vibrational place of like, wanting external things and like that's what life's about and it's not about helping one another and loving one another or whatever, you might, like you were saying, get monetarily successful. But everybody's heard the stories of the people that have monetarily everything they could possibly want in their life, and they're the loneliest people in the whole world.
They're so common, these stories. I use Anthony Bourdain as an example for these kind of stories because at the surface, this guy had it all. He impacted how many millions of lives. He was just an awesome dude, incredible lifestyle of traveling across the world, eating the foods that we've all envisioned and trying. He's doing it and sharing it with us. He had a beautiful wife at the time, and he was like training. He had the greatest friends, but still something we don't know what happened, but something inside him ended up leading him to kill himself. And it's like that's like the poster boy for what we're talking about, because there's something that wasn't fulfilled and we don't know what it was, but it has to come down. Maybe at some point his decision was actually out of fear versus what he really wanted to do. I don't know. But that's a great example of that sad clown story,
Yeah.
No, 100%, man. And Anthony Bourdain was highly into psychedelics too, which was pretty awesome. I think probably helped him out some of his struggles with substance abuse or in his earlier years or whatever. But yeah, man, if you're not coming from a place of love, that's not going to be the end result.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're putting the intention, it's like, listen, like, like for the last over a year, man, like I really haven't been working for anything like monetarily. Like, I mean, we have a business and we're helping people, and that was the bottom line, and that's what I really care about. But it's like it's not like I'm rolling around in the dough or anything and stuff like that. It's not like I get to go out and buy all kinds of nice shit. I'm making less than I used to make.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But the fact is though is like, but this is what really means something to me now, man. Like, I was set up in the other jobs that I quit to come into this. I was going to take over one of the companies. I was going to take over a magazine in the industry. I was going to be very, very monetarily successful. But I felt that void. Like, it's just like, what am I doing? So it's like, so I went through all of that crap my entire life, and it's like, and now I'm not even going to use it to help anybody. It's like, I felt like so lost. I was just like, listen, I'm like, there's no way I can keep going like this. I have to just take a leap of faith and do this because I know it's the right thing. I know it's the right thing for me to do. And it's coming from a place of love and helping other people. It's like the last industry I was in, a lot of the microchip boards that they make and stuff like that are made with all these cleaners that are very toxic for the planet and everything and stuff like that. And I basically just felt like I was selling my soul away because it was doing something that I didn't truly agree with or believe in. Where it's like I knew that if I did this, that if I could just reach that one person and help that one person and maybe get off of drugs or not want to kill themselves or something like that, that it would make my life worth it. And it has, it's like we've actually had veterans that were ready to kill themselves, like coming into the facility, like, listen, if this doesn't work for me, man, I'm done. I can't take it anymore. And one of the guys actually had something called aphantasia, which is it's something where when you dream, you can't see your dreams. So we didn't know if he was actually going to have a profound experience from the medicine. Sure enough, after his session, I walk up and I'm like, so tell me, man, how was it? And he goes, I'm starting to get goosebumps. He's like, I was a bird. And he goes, and I was flying all over the landscape. And he goes, and then he goes, we're all connected. He's like, everything's connected, and the answer is love. And I just go, you got it, man. You got it. And he didn't want to kill himself anymore. And it was just like just like that, man. Like this guy'd been suffering for years
Yeah.
and was ready to take his own life. And after an hour session, he didn't want to kill himself anymore. Knew that we were all connected. Knew that the answer was love. And I'm just like, this is what I live for, man. Like this is what gets me going. Like seeing, because I am empathic like that, and I can feel somebody that's sitting across the room from me, and if they're going through something, I can feel it.
Yeah.
I get very emotional sometimes because like I can feel the pain people are going through just by looking at them in the eyes.
Yeah.
And it's like I've actually in front of my fiance like a couple of times like just like burst into tears a couple of times, and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "That person over there is suffering so badly." And it's like, and I can spot it because I had it for so many years, and like when that's never how I want, and I know how awful it was, and I don't ever want anybody to have to live like that or experience that kind of stuff in their lives. And it's like, and we're doing something that's helping people with that. We're changing people's lives. People walk in the door, they are completely broken at this such a low vibration. You just like can't. It's just there. It's like there's stale air.
Yeah.
About 3 treatments into it, they're starting to glow. They're smiling, and by the time they're done with their sixth treatment, they're unrecognizable from the person that walked through the door. Man, they are just the highest version of themselves they've ever been. They're walking on clouds. We had a guy that hadn't left his house in almost 5 years because of his anxiety. After his sixth treatment, he went on vacation. You know what I'm saying? So it's like this psychedelic medicines didn't just save my life, and it's not just helping people at the facility, but it's going to change the course of the entire world. And I think that it's definitely, with psychedelic medicines, a world that I'm going to want my son to be a part of and for me to be living in, because we're changing out of that old mentality of the hierarchy, and that there's so much superiority in all of these people, and you should respect this person because they're famous and this and that, and realize and just show everybody we're all just monkeys on the bus, man. We're all just here. We're all one. We're all connected. Nobody's better than anybody else. There you got it, man. And it's like we are one and we are love.
Yeah, man.
And psychedelics are taking us there.
That's the. I love it.
I just-
Amen.
yeah, I don't think we could go anywhere from there. I mean, it's about an hour and a half anyway, but I mean, fuck, man, yes.
I'm
yes,
with you, man.
yeah.
And
We're
that's
just so
that-
happy, man. We're just so
that's-
fucking happy.
that was why we kind of started this whole thing. It was just to kind of put some more light on the whole movement and psychedelics as a whole, because it's impacted our lives so much, and the people we've spoke with, it is a movement, man, and it is happening, and it's so exciting to see.
It's needed.
Yeah,
It's
is
coming
needed.
out because it's needed, and this artificial love that's actually fear, it needs so much maintenance, and it's hurting so many people.
And it's not serving. It's
And
not serving.
like the way your soul feels when these people are having these transformations, like try to trade that for like a better salary. It's a joke.
Yeah.
Come
But
on.
I also see it's like you can just see from your example earlier on when you were talking about the news guy telling you maybe you shouldn't say your story, like it might cause some like a bad taste in people's mouth, but that is shedding that old of his mentality, and your mentality is, no, I'm going to be proud of where I came from and where I'm heading, and people are going to see that and be inspired by that and will want treatment more if knowing my background instead of knowing this clean cut, you're in a suit saying, oh, I had a great life, blah, 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 and going on. No, I'm going to be raw with you and
More
explain everything.
illusions, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the shedding of the old. The old is covering up and pretending everything is perfect. I don't know if you. Sorry.
Everything's a blessing or
Yeah.
a lesson. That's my kind of
Yeah.
that's my motto. And it's
great.
just like it's either it's gonna change your life for the better right then, or it's gonna probably end up changing it for the better down the road, because you're gonna know not to do something that you did that time.
I love it.
It's all perspective, man. The key is to just stay positive, keep your vibration high, be good to one another, and just love everybody, man. Help people. That's what I believe that our purpose is to help each other. That's what our real purpose is.
Absolutely, brother. Okay.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to have you back on.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have
Yeah,
another.
gentlemen, I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. Keep on spreading consciousness. Keep on spreading awareness, and keep on getting this message out there. You guys are definitely paving the way for a lot of people, and it's been an honor to talk to both you guys.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks,
It
man.
means a lot.
Yeah, likewise. Fuck yeah, man.